Welcome to the Michele Tafoya podcast. It is a Wild Card Wednesday. Let me remind you, please, right off the bat, to hit that subscribe button. We want to just show up in your mailbox, and it's free of charge to you. So just subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever, Rumble. Just subscribe. That would help us to grow, and that's what we want to keep doing, and it's been going great. Today's Wild Card Wednesday. Elon Musk and Donald Trump sat down for an interview with Sean Hannity last night, and you're going to be seeing tons of that all over everywhere in the world. So I'm only going to show you one clip from that, and I'm not even going to start with that. We're going to start with and cover a lot of stuff that maybe you're not seeing. That's what I want to do today. And it starts in New York, in a place called Borough Park. It's in Brooklyn. And this is supposedly, from what I understand, one of the largest Jewish populations, Jewish neighborhoods, not only in America, but in the world, Borough Park, Brooklyn. So it started with a pro-Palestinian protest in this neighborhood. Hasidic Jews were not going to take it. And this turned into something really ugly. And I don't think enough has been made of this because, yes, you are allowed to protest. You're allowed to assemble in this country. But when it turns violent, which it did, something needs to happen. And you also need to take a measure of this to find out if this is going to happen in one of the largest Jewish neighborhoods in America, in the world, where else might it happen? And we're going to give you a little taste of that too. Look, this is kind of an extension of all these university protests that we have seen over the years since October 7th, 2023. So let's take you to Borough Park, Brooklyn, and our first bit of video. Let's go, John. Now, the story developed in real time last night, and there were accusations that someone tried to drive their car through a crowd. There was a really large knife found on the scene, and I've seen pictures of that this morning. Don't want to show you today, but I mean, you can find them. But this was ugly. This was really ugly. Let's take a second look. This is the police approaching when they found out that there was a knife on the scene and some violence starting to brew. Let's roll this clip.
Police are doing. Go. Back up. Watch out, something fell down, You got it? Back up. I'll do anything.
Several things come to mind as I watch that video. Number one, this is citizen journalism. This is what we talk about when we say citizen journalism. That wasn't a news crew there covering the event. This was someone recording it on their phone. So this is why we're grateful for the platforms that get this stuff out. I found out about this on X last night, not on any kind of news telecast. Secondly, the first responders. Uh, First responders continue to be denigrated and not get the credit that they deserve. Something violent breaks out, first responders show up and they stand hopefully between the good and the evil and protect you. Without that presence there last night, who knows what happens? Third thing is, if you're a small business in that neighborhood and you see this happening, and you're just trying to make ends meet, and you've been running this business for 20 years, and you're watching your building and you're just hoping, right, that this doesn't get any worse. And you're wondering, what is tomorrow going to be like? If tonight was like this, what's tomorrow going to be like? As soon as we accept this in America, we're caving. Because it doesn't have to be this way. Protests don't have to get violent. And fortunately, this one didn't get more so. We've heard there's been one arrest. And if you heard, there was a gentleman running away from that crowd in the very first part of that video where he says he's got a big machete or something like that. And in fact, a large knife was found. So who knows where this would have gone without our first responders? Let's just try defunding the police, right? Yeah, I say that sarcastically because it is the stupidest idea in the world. And these activists that call for it are short-sighted and silly. They're not serious people. So that was last night in Borough Park, Brooklyn. Meanwhile, you ask yourself, okay, all of these protests on campus that should have been shut down, how quickly we've forgotten all of that, but there was a little bit of a discovery made at Georgetown in the last week. And I'm going to roll this clip for you because the indication here is that there is a daughter of a Hamas leader attending Georgetown. And she not only is the daughter of the Hamas leader, she's a supporter of Hamas, the group that just killed a family and are sending the bodies home, little Kafir Bibas and his brother and mom. Kafir sort of became the face of that family. So let's roll this clip on this young woman who's in graduate school at Georgetown.
Meet Mafeze Sana, a graduate student at Georgetown University's Center for Contemporary Arab Studies. She's also the daughter of Ahmed Youssef, who served as a top advisor for Ismail Haniyeh, Hamas's former leader. More importantly, Solaire herself has served with Hamas, a US-designated terrorist organization. Astonishingly, her Georgetown student bio publicly stated that she worked with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Gaza. In Arabic-language media, she's open about her role with the Hamas terrorist regime. She served on Hamas's committee to break the siege in Gaza, which happened to be chaired by her father. When Canberra reached out to Georgetown for comment, the university didn't respond, but promptly deleted Solaire's bio. Solaire has written publicly of her desire to destroy Israel. Just days after the October 7th massacre, she posted a propaganda video justifying the attack.
This situation has compelled the Palestinian people and their resistance to exercise their legitimate right of self-defense.
She then expressed her joy about the massacre and glorified the terrorists who had just butchered Israeli civilians in their own homes. In recent days, she's been busy on social media, sharing videos glorifying Hamas terrorists and propaganda footage mocking the Israeli hostages being cruelly dragged in front of crowds in Gaza. US anti-terror law prohibits the provision of material support to a designated terrorist organization. Solaire's work with Hamas raises serious concerns. So why did Georgetown accept her? The university's decision to admit and harbour someone with a direct connection to and support for a terrorist organisation stands at odds with American policy. This disturbing situation calls for immediate investigation.
Okay, that organization, Camera on Campus, is a small media organization that looks at situations at campuses really across the world, but primarily in the United States. That's who discovered all of this and exposed it, and supposedly Georgetown has taken that bio down. So this is what inclusion often gets, and suicidal empathy, to quote Gad Saad, creates. Who are we going to let into our communities, and will they make them less safe? You saw what happened in Borough Park last night, and you see this. And you have to ask, at what point is being inclusive being suicidally empathic, if you will. So something to chew on. By the way, speaking of terror groups, just within the last hour, the United States, the State Department has designated Tren de Aragua an international terror group. And that means that anyone dealing with Tren de Aragua or supporting them in any way is helping a global terrorist group. Hooray. Bravo, State Department. Bravo. All right. I slept great last night, and I'll tell you why. It was Sleep Cream. Sleep, CREME.com. And I'm not the only one benefiting from this product. And let me tell you that JP says, have been having trouble sleeping, tried this past 2 nights, went to sleep with no problem. Pretty simple. Pretty simple. This is a topical CBD based, and it's a really fine CBD based product that I just apply to the insides of my wrists or forearms, sometimes the bottoms of my feet at bedtime, and I sleep better. And when I go on trips and I forget it, I get so mad because it really, really helps. So now I try not to forget it anymore. Sleep Cream is something that you can try pretty much risk-free, because if it doesn't work for you as well as it works for me, you can ask for a full refund and you will get it, no questions asked, and you don't even have to send the product back. Sleepcream.com, sleep, CREME.com. Use the code GAMEDAY at checkout for free standard shipping on your first order. Sleepcream.com, code GAMEDAY at checkout if you're ready for your best sleep ever, and who isn't? Sleep, CREME.com, code GAMEDAY at checkout. I hope you'll try it. Okay, now we'll bounce over to Elon and Trump with Hannity. A lot came out of this. You know, we've just been hearing again and again and again about this unelected billionaire who wants to line his own pockets with your money. Now, this is the thought that the left wants you to have and absorb and ascribe to, and just say, yeah, I embrace that. Yeah, that's what Elon wants. As if Elon needs any more money. Like, what's he going to do? The more I listen to Elon Musk, I saw him in the Oval about a week ago speaking, and then this interview last night, the more I realize, I'm sorry, Democrats who are trying to demonize this guy. You are wrong. This is a guy who authentically loves this country. Now, no one in this world, and certainly no one in this country, is a perfect human being. And I would suggest you don't throw stones at glass houses, okay, when you live in a glass house, whatever the phrase is. You know what I'm saying? If you're perfect, good for you. He's not, neither is Trump. But these guys, I am more and more convinced every day and every time I listen to them directly and see the screaming on the part of the left. What are they so afraid of? As Elon said in the interview last night, we must be over the target if people are this upset. Correct. They're finding waste, fraud, and abuse. Now, here is the part of the interview that hit so many people. And a lot of people were just, oh my gosh, no, he doesn't know how America works. I think he does, and I think you do. And I think if you deny what he's saying here, you are in denial of what's really going on in Washington. Roll it, John.
One of the biggest functions of the DOGE team is just making sure that the presidential executive orders are actually carried out. And this is, I just want to point out, this is a very important thing, because the president is the elected representative of the people. So he's representing the will of the people. And if the bureaucracy is fighting the will of the people and preventing the president from implementing what the people want, then what we live in is a bureaucracy and not a democracy.
And remember that we are a republic. We're a democrat, a constitutional republic. But yes, did we elect Donald Trump? Yes, we did. Did Donald Trump tell us that Elon Musk was going to look for efficiencies in government? Yes, he did. He told us that many times before the election. And guess what? He still won. And people want to see this. And when you start seeing the waste and the fat in government, the bloat, the disgusting bloat, you want it even more. All right, let's go to the Secretary of the Treasury. that people are saying, oh, Elon's going to get my social security number and he's going to steal my identity. Like Elon needs to steal your identity. All right, I want to start first. Scott Bessent did a few interviews yesterday. He sat down with Bloomberg, and I want to play you this clip. I want you to get to know Scott Bessent. Second openly gay man to serve in the presidential cabinet. Pete Buttigieg, the former transportation secretary, was the first. Scott Bessent is the second. He's had an incredibly successful business career. He is now Secretary of the Treasury. Here's a snippet of him speaking with Bloomberg, and I'll let this interview speak for itself. Roll it, John.
There is widespread concern about the DOGE team's access to sensitive payment systems. Are you worried at all that that access and that tinkering of the payment systems could affect the Treasuries market or cause any disruption?
Good. Well, Solaire, thank you for asking me about that, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. First of all, when you say the DOGE team, these are Treasury employees. It is 2 Treasury employees, one of whom I personally interviewed in his final round. There is no tinkering with the system. They are on read-only. They are looking. They can make no changes. It is an operational program to suggest improvement. So we make 1.3 billion payments a year, and this is 2 employees who are working with a group of long-standing employees.
Elon Musk, just half an hour ago, tweeted out that Treasury needs to stop approving certain payments. Has your staff tried to block any payments here at Treasury?
We have not, and I'm glad you asked that too. And just to put in perspective, Elon and I are completely aligned in terms of cutting waste and increasing accountability and transparency for the American people. I believe that this DOGE program in my adult life is one of the most important audits of government or changes to government structure we have seen. That when I was in my 20s, we had the Grace Report, and there's some great suggestions that came out of that, never implemented. Under Clinton and Gore, I think it was to government efficiency or reduce government, nothing happened. So President Trump came in, there's a big agenda, and I think that there are gigantic cost savings for the American people here. And I think it's unfortunate the way the media wants to lampoon what is going on. These are highly trained professionals. This is not some roving band going around doing things. This is methodical, and it is going to yield big savings.
I like the way he employed the word lampoon, that the media is trying to lampoon this group. Yes, they are. They're calling them a bunch of 19-year-olds in hoodies. I mean, John Fetterman wears a hoodie. You're okay with that. People go to war as soon as they're 18. You're okay with that. You want 16-year-olds to vote. You're okay with that. But a 19-year-old genius trying to help the Treasury save money? Oh, God forbid. 1.3 billion payments per year. 1.3 billion transactions that the Treasury makes every year. And what they have found recently is that many of them don't even say what they're for. Like a payment goes out in the field in the program, like let's say you use your bank and it says, what is this for? To remind yourself, you usually write something like plumber, dog food, groceries, to remind yourself what it's for. That field has been left blank on 1.3 billion payments per year? And you're leaving a bunch of them blank? Where are they even going? And what are they for? So I'd like to know. So Bessent is another cog in this, I guess another spoke in the wheel of this mission to be transparent and to be accountable. Now, Bessent also sat down with Bret Baier, who I think is an exceptional journalist, and they addressed this idea of fraud. And Bessent made a statement. Pay attention. Go ahead and roll it, John.
This kind of fear-mongering doesn't help anybody, but it tells me that people are worried that they're part of the waste, fraud, and abuse.
And you think there's going to be a ton more?
I think when I came in, we all think there's waste, there's abuse. I think there may be some real fraud here, Brett.
Real fraud. Real fraud. Okay. The other interesting direction that Bret Baier went with Scott Bessent was on Ukraine. because Scott Bessent, now Secretary Bessent, went to Ukraine to visit. Listen, we've sent a ton of money to Ukraine. A ton of your money has gone to help Ukraine. And no matter which side of that argument you're on, just keep that knowledge in the back of your mind that it's your money. It's not the government's money. It's your money. So I think makes sense that Scott Bessent would have gone to Ukraine to kind of figure out, like, where is our money being spent? But then also this deal making that's going on right now between Trump and Vladimir Putin in Russia, and now these talks in Saudi Arabia, like all of this Middle East, Ukraine, Russia stuff in one sort of grouping that they're dealing with. Now, here's Scott Bessent, one of the most successful hedge fund managers in history, talking about this deal making about Ukraine. Roll it, John.
Are you optimistic that there is going to be an end game here, that the negotiation works?
The plan that I've seen that President Trump has, I think he could win the Nobel Peace Prize for this. If it were fairly awarded, I think in a year he should get it, from what I've seen.
He called it one of the most elegant proposals. Now, everyone hyperventilates over everything the president says, right? Oh my God, he said we want to buy Greenland. Well, there was some movement from Denmark earlier today. We'll talk about that another time. But this guy is a negotiator, the president, Trump. He's a negotiator. Scott Bessent gets that. A lot of people understand that. And he has surrounded himself with very, very serious people. So I found those two sound bites very, very compelling. And, here's an example of the left-wing media, MSNBC. You can't get much more left-wing than this. And Rachel Maddow, you can't get much more left-wing than that. And her not doing her homework on a very simple matter, she made a claim on her show that I want you to pay close attention to, because what she tries to imply in this claim is that Elon Musk is involved in the government simply to line his own pockets. Roll it, Jesse.
Elon Musk has apparently somehow convinced the United States government, specifically the United States Department of State, that the taxpayers of the United States of America should spend $400 million buying, quote, armored Tesla production units. Isn't it great, and definitely not at all illegal or profoundly corrupt? Definitely not ripping us all off to pay themselves, right?
Donald Trump didn't give that contract to Elon Musk. Joe Biden gave it to him.
Okay, and you see why I accidentally said roll it, Jesse, because I had Jesse Waters on my brain. So it was Biden who signed that contract, Rachel. I don't know if she's done a retraction. But you see what she's trying to do there. She's trying to make them look like they're in cahoots. Buy my cars so I can make money off the U.S. government. But it was Biden who made that order. So, sorry, Rachel. But it's just another example of, it wouldn't have taken much to do the homework on that one. It really wouldn't have taken that much. Speaking of doing homework, I suggest you do some about your wealth and how you might protect it in all these tumultuous times, right? So much going on, and we're hearing about a Chinese U.S. Treasury hack, all kinds of things. You don't want to gamble with your financial future. That's something you do not want to do. So regardless of who's in office, safeguarding your wealth is essential, and relying solely on digital systems or banks might not be a risk you can afford to take. So I want you to do some homework and some research into American Independence Gold by going to tafoyagold.com, TAFOYA gold.com, TAFOYA gold.com, or call them at 833-324-4653. Because for generations, gold and silver have been the ultimate safe haven, weathering wars, recessions, market crashes. So this is more about than just owning gold. It's about taking control of your financial future. As a proud veteran-owned company, American Independence Gold goes the extra mile by supporting military families. They cover custodial fees for life on qualifying accounts and donate a portion of every purchase to the Tunnels to Tower Foundation. Don't wait to secure your future. Act before it's too late. Visit tafoyagold.com or call 833-324-4653. 4653. It's right there on your screen, 833-324-4653 or tafoyagold.com. Make a smart move for your future today. TAFOYA gold.com. So switching to another note here, although this is related, you think there's waste, fraud, and abuse. You know, we talk about those terms very easily, and then you hear about some of the programs that are out there. Here's a very specific example, okay, of something that was covered by USAID. It's a nice sounding department that was established by John F. Kennedy. It has turned corrupt. I invite you to watch this clip and ask yourself, is this how you want your taxpayer dollars spent? Roll it.
Here is Rory Stewart explaining his connection to USAID.
Stopped. Doesn't matter. You have a contract. So, Turquoise Mountain, which my wife Shoshana runs, has a contract, had another $1 million to go. Money just stops.
Oh, hold on. Wait, there's a contract between some organization and USAID, and the contract stopped. And hold on, his wife ran that organization, and they were supposed to get another $1 million from the U.S. government, and that just stopped. What organization does his wife run? It's called the Turquoise Mountain Foundation. You can't make this up. The Turquoise Mountain Foundation exists to teach Afghani peasants about degenerate modern art.
So this is in some ways often called the first piece of conceptual art. Does anyone know what it is? I don't expect the ladies to know. Exactly. An artist called Marcel Duchamp, who's very important in Western art, put this toilet in an art gallery about 100 years ago.
That's where your money's going. Your money is going, or was going until Trump got hold of it, to pay off the wives of British politicians turned Yale professors to teach Afghanis who probably have more important things on their mind about how perverse Western anti-artists decided to pretend that urinals and toilets were, Caravaggio paintings in the early 20th century.
Thank you to Michael Knowles for showing us that. I'm speechless. Okay, now that's just one little program. That's $1 million. So what? We got trillions of taxpayer dollars to spend. Yeah, throw them $1 million. I love seeing this uncovered. I absolutely love seeing this uncovered. All right. JD Vance went to Munich to speak. And did he speak? But what I'd like to show you is this interesting comparison that someone did of JD Vance speaking at this conference in Munich side by side with Kamala Harris speaking at the same conference when she was vice president. Roll it, John.
Now, these cavalier statements are shocking to American ears. For years, we've been told that everything we fund and support is in the name of our shared democratic values. Everything from our Ukraine policy to digital censorship is billed as a defense of democracy. But when we see European courts canceling elections and senior officials threatening to cancel others, we ought to ask whether we're holding ourselves to an appropriately high standard.
But when you present the suggestion that anyone is saying that it is time for a new generation, and they're running against the person who is president, and when presented as though it's an attack, I would like to let us all be clear that the attack is misplaced. If the point of it is that we need leadership that is strong, because we have a strong leader in Joe Biden.
Thank you very much, Madam Vice President.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't know what she said. I really don't. I do know what JD Vance said. He said, and JD Vance was giving a speech and she was giving an interview. Regardless, the word, salads that we continue to allude to are everywhere. What JD Vance is saying is, hey, Europe, we want to share our resources with you. We like to say we're aligned in defense of freedom and democracy, but some of the things you're doing are making us wonder if you really are all about free speech, democracy, freedom, liberty. What are you doing over here? We're seeing some wavering. He put the EU on notice, and for good reason. For good reason. And even British TV found his reasoning to be good. Let's roll this clip from British TV.
You know, we must recognize that this is the Vice President of the United States of America. This isn't someone in the administration. Elon Musk, as valid and as powerful as his views are, is not the Vice President of the United States of America. So when J.D. Vance speaks to Europe and he says, actually, I find your values, the way you're governing yourselves, essentially anti-democratic, anti-free speech, anti-democratic, that is the United States of America calling out the United Kingdom and Europe.
That's essentially the official position of what is meant to be our greatest ally. He did call us a great friends, but he was talking about a backslide from conscience rights, private prayer being something which could be criminal, and his worries about thought crimes and freedom of expression. Do you share those concerns, Ben?
Oh, I completely share them. I'm completely with J.D. Vance in what he said. And of course, we're aware of the non-crime hate incident law/non-law, which was used in order to take Alison Pearson to task. And when you read about NCHIs, they're also used to shut down children at school. Police have gone to schools and tackled students as young as 9 years old for what they've been saying to their fellow students at school. I mean, that's absolutely absurd. And there have been 13,000 such non-crime hate incidents since that non-law was introduced. And of course, we've got the examples of the 70 people during the Southport protests who were incarcerated, not because of rioting, they weren't doing damage, they were other people, but 70 people in prison because of what they said on social media or what they had on placards, what they said to the police, including one individual, Peter Lynch, who sadly hanged himself in prison. And the list of these examples goes on and on and on. And of course, a cornerstone of democracy is free speech. And if you can't have free speech in a society, if you're not allowed to offend each other through the declaration of your views, however awful they might be, then that's the end of democracy.
Well, exactly. And nobody has the right not to be offended. I could say your tie offends me. It doesn't matter.
It's a beautiful tie. You're wrong.
It's a beautiful. As always, Ben, you're quite the clothes horse.
I love that snippet for so many reasons. These two men stated it. I am a free speech absolutist. If you don't have the right to not be offended in this life. Because if you did, you could say anything's offensive. Like he said, I think your tie is offensive. Crime. If you don't think this is really happening, he just gave you multiple examples. There was a man who was arrested for praying silently. You heard me. Praying silently. This is bone-chilling. This is the UK. Okay, so what they told him was he was praying in a safe space. Wasn't safe for him. Watch this. He rolled on it. This is as it happened with police. Go ahead, John.
We just wanted to sort of come over and just say hello in the first instance, but also just inquire into your activities for today.
Well, I'm praying.
Just for your awareness, you are in an area which is governed by a public space protection order. I don't know if you're aware.
I am aware.
Of that public space protection order. They also call it a safe zone. There are signs located in the area just to make you aware of that and the area where certain activities are prohibited.
Sure. Yeah.
In terms of that, can I ask what is the nature of your prayer today?
What is the nature of that? I'm praying for my son.
I don't want to probe. I don't want to sort of ask you to elaborate on that. But
sure.
At the same time, it would be remiss of me to sort of not mention the, like I say, the area of the activity.
Sure.
In terms of that, there is a clause within the public space protection around
Right.
As I say, whilst I don't want to probe as to the reasons you're apparently a fan, it obviously is perhaps pertinent to the area that you are in, and like I said, the PSPO and legislation around that.
Well, I'm praying for my son who's deceased.
I'm very sorry to hear.
Thank you.
Okay. So, again, I'm sorry for your loss, but ultimately I have to go along the guidelines of the Public Space Protection Order.
Right.
They say that we are in the belief, therefore, that you are in breach of clause 4A that says about prayer and also acts of disapproval around the activities at the clinic.
I'm just standing praying.
I understand that, but the PSPO is in place for a reason. We do have to follow through on those regulations.
So it is unfathomable what you just saw. 2 law enforcement officers approach a man who is standing in what they call a public space protected, or a place that is protected by the Public Space Protection Order, PSPO. So it's a public space. This means it's supported by public dollars, okay? Public, but it's protected. So I'm imagining that he was near an abortion clinic, and he's praying silently. And she says, "May I know the nature of your prayer?" I mean, that is unimaginable to me. May I know the nature of your prayer? I'm praying silently. I'm standing praying silently. And then she makes this assumption that it's about, pro-life leanings or whatever. Even if it is, so what? His rights are less important. His right to stand there and pray on a corner is going to harm somebody? What is the nature of your prayer? I don't want to pry. You already did. Now, I understand she's in that duo is in an untenable situation. There is a public space protection order that these guidelines that they need. But you walk up to a guy who's praying and you ask him what the nature of his prayer is? I am flabbergasted. And you should be too. If it can happen in the UK, I'm just saying. That's just one of the most astonishing pieces of video I've ever seen. Not only interrupting free speech, being able to stand in a public space silently praying. If that doesn't blow your mind, nothing will. I don't know. I don't know. Okay, here's something mind-blowing. You can grill even when it's freezing cold. I woke up today, it was -11. But I could still grill food because I have a Solaire infrared grill. So, it doesn't mean you have to not think about grilling outside. If you have a Solaire infrared grill, you can totally do this. So they heat up in 3 minutes. I've timed it. It's true. And they perform just as well in the cold as they do in the summertime. And they heat your food directly. So it's not about heating the air around your food. It's heating the food directly, which means it sears in the flavor. It results in the juiciest food you'll ever taste from any kind of grill, from gas to charcoal or otherwise. So to get the great taste, it's all in the heat. In Solaire infrared from besthotgrill.com. It gets hotter than anything you've experienced during the season. Try the Solaire infrared grill now with the demo program, the Try Before You Buy. Don't be left out in the cold. Learn more about these USA-made Solaire infrared grills at besthotgrill.com. It's hard to find an American-made grill, but you can at besthotgrill.com, besthotgrill.com. All right, let's finish off with kind of a lightning round here. So the president signed an executive order saying that women will compete in women's sports, biological women, not trans women, biological women will compete in women's sports and men in men's sports. The NCAA followed up with a policy that has some holes in it, which we'll talk about at another time. But there are still people who are in denial that this is even happening. That a high school boy just won a pole vaulting event in Maine in the girls' division. Just happened this week. It's funny, though, when you point it out to people who are in denial, how they will go from, oh, that's not happening, to, oh, well, it's happening and it's a good thing. Let's look at this piece of tape. This is a beauty.
What does transgenderism in public look like to you?
It's allowing men to be treated for the purposes of the law as women. It's men taking 900 sports trophies from women in recent years.
And they didn't take 900.
They took 900. There's a report just came out from the United Nations, actually. 890 trophies and medals across 600 women who were competitors, across 29 different sports and 400 competitions. That came out like yesterday.
And they deserved them.
It didn't happen, and they deserve them. Okay, that is the logic I hear from the pro-trans crowd. Yeah.
Thank you. They do deserve them.
They deserve them? I'm just not even going to go into the arguments because there's no logic with these people. No logic. And, you know, I wish I had the silver tongue of John Kennedy, the senator from Louisiana. He puts things better than anybody. Except for maybe Mike Tomlin, the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. John Kennedy talks about Democrats and some of these opinions that they have, like the one you just saw. Roll this gem, John.
I've got a lot of friends who are Democrats, and they haven't asked me for advice, but if I did, I'd tell them, look, you just got to try harder not to suck. I mean, think about it. Over the past 4 years, the Democrats mismanaged Congress, they mismanaged COVID, they mismanaged the economy, they mismanaged inflation, they mismanaged the national debt, they mismanaged Afghanistan. More recently, in their opposition to President Trump and Mr. Musk, the Democrats have chosen to support the bureaucrats and the spending porn over the American taxpayer, just like they support illegal immigration over the rule of law, just like they support transgender athletes over women's sports, just like they support Hamas terrorists over Israel. All Democrats are not like this, but the party is controlled right now by people who majored in online activism with a minor in puberty blockers. I know these people. They think women, they think men can breastfeed. They're triggered by race. They cry if you use the wrong pronoun. And most fair-minded Americans look at this and they go, these people are about 10 exits past normal. And that's what's killing the Democrats right now.
And he's right. But I hope they just ignore him. I mean, it's amazing because you've seen people noticing this. You see it almost daily. People leaving the Democrat Party because they're going, what the hell are they doing over there? They're singing, which side are you on? When we just want to save money. Even the mayor of New York, Eric Adams. Now, this is a whole nother thing that's going to develop. It's developing as we speak. The governor, Kathy Hochul of New York, is threatening to remove him from the mayoral office. He's in the middle of a re-election. So she may upset the will of the people if she does that. That would be quite a cluster if she does that. But she's considering it, and she's taking Al Sharpton's advice in the whole thing. I don't know where he has standing in New York, but apparently in Kathy Hochul's office he does. But Mayor Adams is starting to see the light a little bit. And one of the things that he's starting to see is he doesn't get fair treatment by the media, as exemplified by this moment with him walking down the street in New York recently. Go ahead.
Mayor Adams, why don't you take questions from the press?
Just make a pad for us, that's all.
Why don't you take questions from the press?
Y'all liars.
What are we lying about exactly?
Yeah, what are we lying about exactly?
Well, I think the best part of that clip is, what are we lying about exactly? Yeah, what are we lying about exactly? Because the media are so trained to mimic one another. I love that. Okay, what are they lying about exactly? I'm going to go back into the Wayback Machine here for a minute, because we talked about it. John Kennedy there said they screwed up Afghanistan. Boy, did they screw up the Afghanistan withdrawal. And we found a clip from 2007 of Joe Biden. He looks a lot more alert. I mean, you'll kind of be shocked by this, talking about what an Afghanistan withdrawal would look like. So this is 2007, George W. Bush still in office. Joe Biden wants to be the vice president to Barack Obama. And he gave this talk. Watch his body language too. This is remarkable footage. It's worth rewatching with hindsight to both events, not only his speech here, but then the withdrawal from Afghanistan. Roll it, John.
Big difference to tell the American people the truth about what our options are in ending this war. If tomorrow the order goes out from I'm President of the United States, I issue an order, end the war today, begin to withdraw all American troops. It will take a year to get the American troops out. Do you hear me now? That's the truth. It will take a year to get them physically out. Now, if you leave all the equipment behind, you might be able to do it in 7 months. And you leave those billions of dollars of weapons behind, I promise they're going to be used against your grandchild and mine someday. And you leave those billions of dollars of weapons behind, I promise they're going to be used against your grandchild and mine someday.
Again, that last sentence reiterated on purpose, but he did it anyway. He did it anyway. So that's another mess we're having to clean up from. I want to leave you with 2 quick clips that maybe will make you smile. One is from a guy that we've had on this show. He goes by King Randall. He has a school for boys in Georgia, in a very rural area of Georgia. And it's a school for African-American boys. And he's trying to raise them to be smart, to be tough, to be gentlemen, to be handy, to understand the whole world. And I so applaud what he's doing. And here's a clip he posted recently about how he's training these kids to learn. You just got to watch it. Go ahead, John.
Capital of Florida.
Tallahassee.
Capital of Alabama.
Montgomery.
Capital of Georgia.
Atlanta.
Capital of Arkansas.
Little Rock.
What's capital of Alaska?
Juneau.
How many continents are there?
7.
What continent we live on?
North America.
What's all the continents?
Asia, Africa, North and South America, Antarctica, Europe, and Australia.
How many stages in the water cycle?
4.
What's the 4th stage of the water cycle?
Condensation, evaporation, translation, and precipitation.
Big boy.
We're smart and we play ball.
I'm fighting tears because I wonder how many kids his age could recite all of that while throwing a baseball. It's great work. It's great work. And finally, Jerry Seinfeld, I think, is also having second thoughts about the Democrat Party. He got a little bit of an ambush here recently in a photo op with a guy. You know, if you're a celebrity, you're out walking around, people come up all the time and ask you to take a picture with them. And a lot of people do it. Some people don't. Depends on the circumstances always. But here is one of those opportunities, and it caught a surprising comment from Jerry Seinfeld. Roll it.
Jerry, can I get a selfie? Sure. Free Palestine!
I don't care about Palestine.
That's sad. I don't care about Palestine. Well, Jerry Seinfeld is Jewish and likely is still smarting from the horrific stuff that we've seen Hamas, which is supported by Palestinians, do to the Jews. not in self-defense, but in complete and total offensive move on October 7th, 2023. And we're still waiting on all the hostages. So some people just are starting to drop their fears. They're starting to say, you know what? I don't care what you think anymore because what you think is wrong. I'm tired of being politically correct. I'm tired of being sensitive and not wanting to offend. I'm going to say what I want. By the way, what's the capital of California? It's Sacramento. And the capital of Minnesota? St. Paul. All right. Like Jerry Seinfeld there, be brave. And like King Randall there, teaching his kids, do good. And we will see you next time. Hey folks, quick reminder, if you want to keep up with the Trump administration, you can do that when you subscribe to the Trump Report. This email brings you daily highlights from the Oval Office right to your inbox 5 days a week. And you can subscribe today at www.salempodcastnetwork.com/Trump.